looking at her. A small window by the door let in a block of sunshine. Beyond it, in the corner by the stove, stood a small table and a chair. That is the teacher's table, Laura thought, and then, oh my, I am the teacher. Her steps sounded loud. All the eyes followed her. She put her books and dinner pail on the table and took off her coat and hood. She hung them on a nail in the wall by the chair. On the table was a small clock. Its hand stood at 5 minutes to 9. Somehow she had to get through 5 minutes before the time to begin school. Slowly she took off her mittens and put them in the pocket of her coat. Then she faced all the eyes and stepped to the stove. She held her hands to it as if to warm them. All the pupils made way for her, still looking at her. She must say something. She must. "It is cold this morning, isn't it?" she heard herself say. Then, without waiting for an answer, "Do you think you can keep warm in the seats away from the stove?" One of the tall boys said quickly, "I'll sit in the back seat. It's the coldest." The tall girl said, "Charles and I have to sit together. We have to study from the same books." "Well, that's good. Then you can all sit near the stove," Laura said. To her joyful surprise, the 5 minutes were gone. She said, "You may take your seats. School will begin." The little girl took the front seat. Behind her sat the little boy, then the tall girl and Charles, and behind them the other tall boy. Laura rapped her pencil on the table. "School will come to order. I will now take your names and ages." The little girl was Ruby Brewster. She was 9 years old. She had brown hair and sparkling brown eyes, and she was as soft and still as a mouse. Laura knew she would be sweet and good. She had finished the first reader, and in arithmetic she was learning subtraction. The little boy was her brother Tommy Brewster. He was 11, and had finished the second reader and reached short division. The two sitting together were Charles and Martha Harrison. Charles was 17. He was thin and pale and slow of speech. Martha was 16. She was quicker, and spoke for them both. The last boy was Clarence Brewster. He, too, was older than Laura. His brown eyes were even brighter and livelier than his little sister Ruby's. His dark hair was thick and unruly, and he was quick in speaking and moving. He had a way of speaking that was almost saucy. Clarence, Charles, and Martha were all in the fourth reader. They had passed the middle of the spelling book, and in arithmetic they were working fractions. In geography they had studied the New England states, and they answered questions so well that Laura set them to learn the Middle Atlantic states. None of them had studied grammar or history, but Martha had brought her mother's grammar, and Clarence had a history book. "Very well," Laura said. "You may all begin at the beginning in grammar and history, and exchange the books to learn your lessons." When Laura had learned all this and assigned their lessons, it was time for recess. They all put on their wraps and went out to play in the snow, and Laura breathed a sigh of relief. The first quarter of the first day was over. Then she began to plan. She would have reading, arithmetic, and grammar recitations in the forenoon, and in the afternoon, reading again, history, writing, and spelling. There were 3 classes in spelling, for Ruby and Tommy were far apart in the spelling book. After 15 minutes, she rapped on the window to call the pupils in. Then until noon, she heard and patiently corrected their reading aloud. The noon hour dragged slowly. Alone at her table, Laura ate her bread and butter, while the others gathered around the stove, talking and joking while they ate from their dinner pails. Then the boys ran races in the snow outdoors, while Martha and Ruby watched them from the window, and Laura still sat at her table. She was a teacher now, and must act like one. At last the hour was gone, and again she rapped on the window. The boys came briskly in, breathing out clouds of frosty breath and shaking cold air from their coats and mufflers as they hung them up. They were glowing from cold and exercise. Laura said, "The fire is low. Would you put more coal on, please, Charles?" Willing but slowly, Charles lifted the heavy hod of coal.